The polished marble floors of Blackwood Enterprises reflected the pre-dawn security lights as Vanessa Reynolds arrived at 4:30 a.m. She pulled her navy blazer tighter against the cool April air that had followed her in from downtown Seattle. Worn name badge that read, Director of Custodial Operations, caught the dim light as she headed toward the service elevator. Vanessa knew every inch of the 40-story skyscraper, from the underground parking facilities to the executive penthouse. Suites where decisions affecting thousands of lives were made daily. Most people only noticed these gleaming floors during business hours, never considering the hands that maintained them. Thomas was already organizing supply carts by the staff entrance when she arrived. Morning, Ms. Reynolds. The new cleaning. Supplies arrived yesterday, he reported, handing her an inventory sheet. Good morning, and please, it's Vanessa, she reminded him gently, scanning the list as she walked to her modest office, a converted storage room with a desk wedged into one corner. Her MBA textbooks were neatly stacked on a shelf, tabs marking key sections for next week's exam. By 5:15 a.m. Her team of 25 was assembled in the break room for the daily briefing. These weren't just employees to Vanessa. They had become a family over the years, supporting her through 4 years of night classes and 2 promotions. Remember, the quarterly board meeting is at 9 a.m. today, she instructed. The executive floor needs special attention, particularly the conference room windows. Mr. Pierce specifically requested they be spotless. Right on cue, the executive elevator chimed at 6:30 a.m. Vanessa was inspecting fresh flower arrangements in the corridor when Dominic Pierce strode in, Italian leather shoes clicking against the freshly polished floor. At 47, the CEO cut an imposing figure, tall with salt and pepper hair and a tailored suit that likely cost more than Vanessa's monthly salary. Reynolds, he called without breaking stride. There's a smudge on the east window of my office that needs addressing before the board arrives. Yes, Mr. Pierce. I'll handle it personally, she replied evenly. He paused, turning slowly. Reynolds, I've been reviewing your department's performance lately. His tone was measured, impossible to read. Vanessa straightened her posture. Thank you, sir. In fact, I'd like you to check your email later today. My assistant will be sending you something. With that, he continued down the hallway, leaving behind the scent of expensive cologne and a knot in Vanessa's stomach. The smudge was gone by noon, when Vanessa's phone chimed with an email notification from Pierce's assistant. She opened it with trepidation, expecting criticism. Instead, she found an invitation to the Blackwood Annual Charity Gala, the city's most exclusive social event, where Seattle's elite networked over $1,000 bottles of wine and career-defining conversations. She read it 3 times. The Four Seasons, next Saturday, black tie, +1. The kind of event where she would normally be overseeing the cleaning staff, not attending as a guest. Vanessa studied her reflection in the bathroom. Mirror dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, minimal makeup, sensible shoes. Though impeccably clean, her uniform marked her as staff, not executive material. She remembered Pierce's smirk and knew this wasn't an honor, it was calculated. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Lunch today? Free between surgeries at Seattle General. Vanessa glanced at the invitation, then back at her reflection. Something shifted in her eyes, doubt giving way to determination. She typed back, Yes, we need to talk. It's important. Though her morning shift was ending, Vanessa. Reynolds' real test was just beginning. From his corner office on the 40th floor, Dominic Pierce swirled espresso in a custom ceramic cup, a satisfied smile playing on his lips as he gazed out at the Seattle skyline. You should have seen her face, Richard, he told his CFO, who shifted uncomfortably in the visitor's chair. Dominic, I'm not sure about this. Richard Grayson adjusted his glasses. Reynolds has reduced operational costs by 18% since taking over. Tenant satisfaction is at an all-time high. Exactly. Pierce set down his cup with a sharp click. She's getting too comfortable. Did you know she's pursuing an MBA at Washington? State on a custodial supervisor's salary? She needs to understand her place. The board meeting documents scattered across his mahogany desk ironically highlighted Vanessa's department's exceptional performance. Pierce pushed them aside impatiently. The waterfront cafe overlooked Puget Sound, its large windows framing the gray-blue waters against Seattle's rainy afternoon sky. Vanessa sat at a window table, turning the embossed invitation over in her hands when she spotted her brother entering. The restaurant. Dr. Nathan Reynolds still wore his surgical scrubs beneath a Seattle General Hospital jacket, his confident stride reflecting years of saving lives. "Sorry I'm late, V," he said, sliding into the booth. Emergency appendectomy turned complicated. He raised his hand to catch the server's attention. "I'll have what my sister's having." "Black coffee for the doctor," the server winked. "Matches." Her mood today. As the server departed, Nathan studied Vanessa's expression. "All right, out with it. Your text had crisis written all over it, but you don't look like someone whose world is ending." Vanessa handed him her phone with the invitation displayed. Nathan's expression shifted from curiosity to understanding to something harder as he read, "The Blackwood Annual Charity Gala," he read aloud. "By personal invitation of Dominic Pierce." "It's not what you think." Vanessa wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "He's not being kind. He's setting me up." She described the morning's encounter, including Pierce's tone and his assistant's knowing looks. Their food arrived club sandwich for Vanessa, Reuben for Nathan, both served with extra pickles, a tradition since childhood. "Remember when Dad would bring us here after swimming lessons?" Nathan asked, deliberately changing the subject. Vanessa nodded. Their father had worked as a building engineer until cancer took him 5 years ago. He'd been so proud when Nathan entered medical school and equally thrilled when Vanessa started taking night classes. What would Dad say about this Pierce character? Nathan carefully bit into his sandwich. "That he's forgotten what the ground looks like because his head's so high in the clouds." Vanessa smiled, then sighed. "But Dad's not here, and I have to decide what to do about this invitation." Nathan wiped his hands and checked his calendar on his phone. "When's your last class on Friday?" 6. Why? Perfect. "I'm blocking off next Saturday night." "You're not going to this thing alone." He held up his hand as Vanessa began to protest. "Let's play his game, but we'll play it our way." "Nathan, I can't ask you." "You're not asking, I'm offering," he interrupted with a grin. "Did you know half the hospital board members own Blackwood stock? And that new cardiac wing I've been spearheading, guess who's considering the principal? Donation?" As they spent the next hour strategizing, Vanessa felt the knot in her stomach loosening. When they parted outside, Nathan hugged her tightly. "One more thing," he said, walking backward toward his car. "Don't you dare touch your savings for this. Mom would haunt me if I let you spend your MBA money on a dress. Consider it an early birthday present." Watching him drive away, Vanessa thought about her afternoon crew waiting back at Blackwood. Her steps became more purposeful as she headed back, already visualizing the next moves in their counter-strategy. Back in his office, Dominic Pierce briefed his event coordinator, Sophia. "Wellington, on the seating chart for the gala. Put Reynolds at table 11, he instructed. "Next to Mrs. Fitzgerald, the one who talked about her orchid collection all night last year. Who's her plus one?" Sophia asked, stylus poised over her tablet. Pierce laughed dismissively. "Do you really think someone like that has connections? She either decline or come alone." When his assistant Claire entered with confirmation that the invitation had been sent, Pierce nodded with satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Richard Grayson gathered his papers and stood to leave. If I may, Dominic, I've learned not to underestimate people with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Pierce turned back to the Seattle skyline, dismissing the concern. The CEO pulled up Vanessa's employee file on his computer. 5 years of perfect service records, excellent tenant reviews, and cost-saving innovations. In another life, he might have respected such dedication. But Blackwood Enterprises hadn't become a real estate empire by promoting from the janitorial closet. "Claire," he called over the intercom, "contact the photographer for the Seattle Social. I want every moment of this documented." As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the city, Pierce was certain everything was proceeding according to plan. But even kings sometimes miscalculate their equations. Midnight found Vanessa at her small apartment desk, struggling to focus on derivatives formulas as her mind drifted repeatedly to the gala. Though compact, her studio was meticulously organized, a skill that had served her well in both work. An academic's her uniform for tomorrow hung by the door, while a corkboard displayed her class schedule, work roster, and a cherished photo of her father at her community college graduation, his proud smile captured when she'd announced her MBA plans. A new email notification from Blackwood Enterprises made her heart race, but it was only the weekly maintenance report. Still, seeing the company name intensified her anxiety. Her phone chimed with a text from Lucia, her evening shift supervisor. "Heard about the invitation. Building's buzzing. You okay?" Vanessa began typing a response, but deleted it. How could she explain something she barely understood herself? The gala was clearly meant to humiliate her, but with Nathan's help, it could become what? A victory? A stepping stone? Another notification appeared. Her study group was meeting tomorrow, before her shift. Last week, fellow student James Perkins, who worked as a junior analyst at Morgan Stanley, had mentioned his firm was seeking operations managers with real-world experience. She reopened the gala invitation, studying the Four Seasons logo at the top. She'd cleaned venues like that before, restocking towels, refreshing suites. Now she would enter through the front door as a guest. She remembered her father's words. "Being honest about your work doesn't make you less, sweetie. It's letting others decide your worth that diminishes you." A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Through the peephole, she saw Mrs. Hernandez from next door, still in her nursing scrubs. "Made too much soup," the older woman explained, offering a container when Vanessa opened the door. "Thought you might be studying late again." "Thank you." Vanessa accepted it gratefully. "How's the night shift?" "Same as always. But guess what?" Mrs. Hernandez beamed. "My Gabriella finally got into the nursing program. She says watching me inspired her. You never know who's learning from your example." After Mrs. Hernandez left, Vanessa sat at her small dining table, thinking of Nathan's path to medicine, her father's work ethic despite his illness, and her team members pursuing their own dreams. She began listing pros and cons of attending the gala. Risks, humiliation, office politics, a strained relationship with Pierce. Potential gains, networking opportunities, shifting perceptions, proving a point. Nathan texted a photo of a business card. Met a Blackwood board member at the hospital today. Mentioned I'm attending their gala. Funny how small Seattle can be. Vanessa smiled. Another benefit, showing that status doesn't determine dignity. She finally replied to Lucia. I'm fine. See you tomorrow. Returning to her desk, she closed her textbook. Suddenly, the business concepts seemed more relevant. Wasn't this exactly what business was about? Situation analysis, risk assessment, seizing opportunities. Outside, Seattle's lights twinkled like stars, each representing countless decisions being made in homes and offices across the city. Vanessa Reynolds had already made hers. Meanwhile, across town in his luxury penthouse, Dominic Pierce poured himself a scotch while reviewing quarterly projections. His phone buzzed with a message from Richard. FYI, Dr. Nathan Reynolds, cardiology director at Seattle General, has RSVP'd as Vanessa Reynolds +1. He's leading the new Cardiac Center fundraising. Pierce nearly spilled his drink. This wasn't part of the plan. He quickly called Sophia. Change the seating chart, he instructed. Move Reynolds and her guest to ... table 7. Not the center. Tables reserved for VIPs, but not the outer tables either. A middle ground that wouldn't offend a potential hospital donor. After hanging up, Pierce stared at the Seattle skyline. The game had changed, but he was still certain of the outcome. One custodial supervisor, even with a doctor brother, couldn't possibly navigate the shark-infested waters of Seattle's elite dot as dawn approached. Vanessa's cleaning crew gathered in Blackwood's break room, their hushed voices discussing the invitation. Is it true? Thomas asked when Vanessa entered to distribute assignments. Yes, she replied evenly, maintaining her professional tone. I'll be attending. Elena, who had worked at Blackwood longer than Vanessa, lowered her voice. We heard what happened to that accounting girl last year, Gabrielle. Mr. Pierce let them humiliate her. Vanessa's jaw tightened as she remembered Gabrielle's tearful exit. That won't be happening this time. Throughout the day, whispers traveled. Through the building's invisible network connecting maintenance staff, security guards, receptionists, and cleaners. By lunchtime, even middle managers were watching Vanessa with curious glances as she conducted her daily inspections. Some smirked knowingly, others avoided eye contact, and a few, like Patricia from Human Resources, offered support. Vanessa. Patricia caught her by the coffee station. I've been to dozens of these galas. If you need any advice, just ask. Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate that. Pierce himself was conspicuously absent, tied up in back-to-back meetings. When his assistant passed Vanessa in the hallway, she did a double-take, as if seeing her for the first time. Ms. Reynolds, Claire called hesitantly. Regarding your RSVP, I'll be there, Vanessa replied calmly. With your +1, Claire blinked. I see. I'll update the seating chart. The Four Seasons Hotel loomed majestically against Seattle's twilight sky, its historic facade illuminated against the deepening blue. Nathan parked his Tesla at the valet stand as Vanessa sat still for a moment, watching Seattle's most influential citizens stream into the lobby. Ready? Nathan asked, adjusting his bow tie. Vanessa took a final glance in the mirror. Her emerald gown flowed like liquid silk, her dark hair elegantly styled in a sophisticated updo that had taken the stylist an hour to perfect. The silver bracelet Thomas's wife had insisted she wear caught the light. She looked like herself perhaps, more polished, but still Vanessa Reynolds. Ready? When the valet opened her door, Vanessa emerged with practiced grace. Nathan offered, his arm with natural ease as they approached the entrance, where photographers captured arrivals for the society pages. Several cameras turned toward them, the unrecognized pair who somehow looked like they belonged. Dr. Reynolds. The call came from Dr. Howard, chairman of Seattle General's board, standing with his wife near the entrance. This must be Vanessa. I've heard remarkable things about your operational expertise at Blackwood. Before Vanessa could respond, more voices joined in. Hospital board members recognized Nathan and introduced their spouses, pulling Vanessa into conversations about operational efficiency and property management. She found herself discussing cost-cutting strategies with a real estate developer who seemed genuinely interested in her innovations. Halfway through the reception line, she spotted him. Dominic Pierce stood near the ballroom doors, greeting guests with practiced charm. As they approached, his smile faltered slightly, his eyes widening at the sight of Vanessa and Nathan moving effortlessly through the crowd he'd carefully curated. Mr. Pierce, Vanessa said softly, extending her hand. "Thank you for the invitation." He recovered quickly, his business mask sliding back into place. "What a pleasant surprise, Miss Reynolds, Dr. Reynolds. You forgot to mention Vanessa is Dr. Reynolds' sister." Dr. Howard appeared beside them. "We were just discussing her brilliant work with building operations. Those efficiency protocols she implemented were fascinating." Pierce's smile tightened. "Yes, Miss Reynolds is quite thorough." "More than thorough," Richard Grayson approached, with a champagne flute. "Just last week the board reviewed her department's metrics. Vanessa, your work has been exemplary." Pierce remained at the door as they entered the ballroom. The space was stunning ivory and gold-dressed tables, crystal chandeliers, and floral arrangements that could have funded a semester of Vanessa's MBA. She noticed their place cards had been hastily relocated, not to table 11 as originally planned, but to table 7 near the center. "Politics," Nathan whispered when he saw her notice. "Doctor raising funds for the new cardiac center can't sit in the back, can they?" Vanessa surveyed the room calmly, recognizing most faces from her week of research CEOs, donors, board members. Some nodded acknowledgement, others looked curious. None showed the disdain she'd expected. Vanessa Reynolds? A woman in a sleek blue gown approached their table. "I'm Helen Wright from Westside Development. Patricia said you'd be here. We should discuss your maintenance protocols sometime. Our properties could use that level of efficiency." As dinner approached, Vanessa could feel the weight of eyes on her, not mocking or pitying, but assessing, evaluating. She sat straighter, remembering her father's words. "It's how you carry yourself, not how others see you, that determines your value." Pierce had stationed a photographer nearby who continued shooting, but Vanessa suspected the pictures wouldn't tell the story he'd intended. Instead of a woman out of place, they would show a poised professional engaging in meaningful conversations with Seattle's business leaders. Early in the evening, the script had already been flipped from a cautionary tale about knowing one's place to a story about redefining what that place could be. The first course arrived with military precision, delicate plates of seared scallops artfully arranged. Vanessa recalled her etiquette practice, waiting for others to begin before selecting the correct fork with ease. Across the table, Nathan initiated casual conversation with their tablemates, his natural charisma putting everyone at ease. Margaret Fitzgerald, the infamous orchid enthusiast who was supposed to bore Vanessa all evening, turned to her with genuine interest. "Dr. Reynolds, how did you balance your surgical residency with supporting your sister through school? Such dedication from both of you." From 2 tables away, Pierce watched them, the tension evident in his forced laugh as he conversed with his inner circle. This wasn't how the evening was supposed to unfold. "Ms. Reynolds," called Morgan Stanley's senior partner, William Brooks, from the adjacent table. "James Perkins tells me you're in his MBA cohort. We're always looking for operations experts who understand both theory and practical application." Vanessa engaged in a lengthy discussion about process improvement, drawing from both her academic knowledge and hands-on experience. Pierce's attention was repeatedly drawn to her animated conversation, though he pretended to focus on his own. "Table. The key," she told Brooks, "is recognizing that efficiency isn't just about cutting costs. It's about optimizing human potential. People invest effort when they feel valued." When the second course arrived, a delicate soup requiring careful spoon technique, Vanessa navigated it with the grace born of hours of practice. Nathan caught her eye with a subtle nod of approval. "Dr. Reynolds," Pierce called out, his voice carrying. "What attracted you to Seattle General? Surely there were other opportunities." The question was a thinly veiled jab at Vanessa's educational pedigree, but Nathan was prepared. "Actually, I was recruited specifically for the Cardiac Innovation Program," he replied evenly. Vanessa also excelled at Washington State, entirely on her own merits. "Though I must say, her ability to maintain Blackwood properties while maintaining a 4.0 GPA is rather extraordinary. Dr. Howard, who had been listening, chimed in. Speaking of innovations, Dominic, have you considered how Vanessa's efficiency protocols might benefit the new medical center project? There could be significant cost reductions. The conversation shifted to business possibilities with Vanessa, offering insights that demonstrated both her academic and practical knowledge. Her voice remained steady and professional, neither apologetic nor combative, simply herself. Intelligent, prepared, and dignified. As the main course was being served, Vanessa noticed Claire watching her with what appeared to be admiration. Clearly, the assistant had expected to witness a humiliation and was instead observing a lesson in grace under pressure. "You know," Margaret Fitzgerald said quietly as conversation buzzed around them, "I was at last year's gala when that poor accounting girl left in tears. This is much more entertaining." Vanessa gave the older woman a measured look and a small smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm simply here to enjoy the evening." "Indeed, dear, and you're doing a splendid job of it." As dessert and artfully presented chocolate soufflé arrived at the tables, the ballroom hummed with conversation. Vanessa noted how the dynamics had shifted throughout the evening, from clearly defined social circles to conversations that crossed traditional boundaries. "You've made quite an impression." Helen Wright leaned across the table. "We've been experiencing the same efficiency challenges at our Manhattan properties. Would you be interested in meeting next week?" Before Vanessa could answer, William Brooks joined in. "Actually, we should talk as well. Morgan Stanley manages several real estate investment trusts that could benefit from your expertise." From his table, Pierce watched these exchanges with increasing discomfort. His carefully orchestrated evening had transformed into something beyond his control. The photographer he'd hired was still circulating, but instead of capturing awkward social missteps, he was documenting Vanessa's deepening engagement with Seattle's business elite. "Tell them about the maintenance tracking system you developed." Nathan prompted. Vanessa described the software platform she'd created during her information systems course, integrating regular maintenance schedules with predictive analytics. "It reduced our emergency repair costs by 42% in the first quarter," she explained, her passion for the work evident. 42%? Richard Grayson approached their table. The board was impressed with 35. "You've improved it further." Vanessa nodded. "I've been refining the algorithms as part of my MBA capstone project." "Fascinating," Dr. Howard's wife commented. "Dominic mentioned you were pursuing higher education, but not that you were developing proprietary systems for Blackwood." While doing so, by the time coffee was served, Vanessa had exchanged business cards with 4 executives, including the CEO of a competing property management firm. Pierce remained at his table, his earlier confidence replaced by a pensive frown. "It seems, Mr. Pierce's plan has backfired spectacularly," Nathan murmured as they prepared to leave. "You've made quite an impression." Vanessa squeezed his hand. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Actually, you could have. I just provided the tuxedo and the car." He smiled. "The rest was all you." As they made their goodbyes, Vanessa found herself approached by Claire, Pierce's assistant. "Ms. Reynolds," she began hesitantly, "I was wondering if you might have time next week to discuss your career path. I'm considering night classes myself." "I'd be happy to," Vanessa replied warmly. "And please, call me Vanessa." They were nearly at the door when Dominic Pierce intercepted them, his expression unreadable. "Ms. Reynolds," he said stiffly, "I trust you enjoyed the evening." "Very much, Mr. Pierce. Thank you for the opportunity." Her voice held no sarcasm, only professional courtesy. "Good. Well, perhaps we should discuss your department's innovations at our next operations meeting." "I look forward to it," she replied, noticing the board members watching their exchange with interest. Outside, the night air felt refreshing after the ballroom's warmth. As they waited for the valet, Nathan grinned. "Well, that was more entertaining than any surgery I've performed this week. What's your next move?" Vanessa gazed at the Seattle skyline, considering. "I'm not sure yet. I have options to consider." "And a final exam next week," he reminded her. "That too." She laughed. Monday morning arrived with a surprising stillness. Vanessa moved through her usual routine, arriving before dawn, meeting with her team, conducting inspections, but something had changed. Staff throughout the building regarded her differently, with nods of respect or curious glances. At noon, an email arrived from William Brooks at Morgan Stanley, requesting a formal interview. Another from Helen Wright proposed lunch to discuss opportunities at Westside Development. She was reviewing these messages when a knock came at her office door. Richard Grayson stood there, looking somewhat uncomfortable. "Ms. Reynolds, the board has been discussing your predictive maintenance system. We'd like you to present it at next month's meeting. Also," he hesitated, "there's been some restructuring. Discussions. We're considering creating a new position, Director of Operational Innovation. Your name has come up." After he left, Vanessa sat quietly, contemplating the sudden shift in her professional landscape. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "How's the first day as the talk of Seattle business going?" She smiled and replied, "Interesting, very interesting." That evening, as she prepared for her MBA class, Vanessa placed the silver bracelet from her team in her jewelry box. Beside it, she laid the business cards she'd collected at the gala, tangible evidence of doors opening. From his office, Dominic Pierce watched the city lights come on, his reflection superimposed over the Seattle skyline. On his desk lay the board's proposal for departmental restructuring, highlighting Vanessa's innovations and recommending her advancement. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Pierce, the photographer from the gala sent over the images for your approval. Delete them," he said after a moment, "and schedule a meeting with Ms. Reynolds for tomorrow." As night fell over Seattle, Vanessa sat in her MBA class, fully engaged in a discussion about organizational change management. The professor had just asked about real-world applications when her phone silently lit up with a calendar invitation from Pierce's office. She smiled slightly, turning her attention back to the lecture. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, in this classroom, Vanessa Reynolds was exactly where she belonged, creating her own path forward, one calculated step at a time.